again, I could easily see why people would hate this movie. In fact, I kind of hated this movie, but that's just me. I can actually kind of take myself out of the equation and admit that in terms of tradecraft, this was good. So, that's about all I got when it comes to Final Destination. Oh no, the Candyman is in this movie again, and all he does is just kind of repeat the exact, I swear to God, they just cut and pasted the script from the first movie into this movie, where all he does is just, he kind of glowers at people and goes, "You all be careful now." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Death doesn't like to be cheated." And that's it. You know, okay, well, I'll tell you why I don't like this movie. This movie more than any of the others, because I can't believe this has gone on for 5 movies at this point, because, for one, there's no clear antagonist. It's just kind of, people are just dying, because death catches up to you. And that's not really an antagonist, so it's really, really hard to sustain any kind of suspense or momentum when it's clearly just basically the audience killing the people in the movie. The only, like, it's kind of like a quantum horror thing. If we don't watch it, these people don't die. So, Final Destination, the best way I can explain this series is, basically if you made a movie if you made a movie in a world where God was you playing The Sims. So, you know how people play Sims just to fucking murder people, or set their house on fire just to watch them burn, or gag to death on their own vomit, or, you know, that kind of thing? If you were God and really fucked up, this is the world that Final Destination inhabits. Where, and what frustrates me about this movie is it never provides any kind of answer. I always try to look for a story in movies, and that's why I kind of don't like the gore flicks, because it's all about the gore. It's all about the kills. For me, there's no point in watching this kind of movie. It's just boring. And so the kills were so good that it actually was not all that boring, but it was still kind of pointless. When there's no hope, and there is no hope for any of these characters, trust me, they all die. They all die in every flick. When there's no hope for any of the characters, and they basically know there's no hope, I can't get invested in any of them. I don't care if they live or die, because they're all going to die. In fact, in these movies, they might as well just save themselves the time and kill themselves in a relatively painless way. I'm surprised nobody's actually taken that course of action yet in these movies. It's frustrating because even with the slasher movies, at least there's some kind of personification that you can be afraid of. It's not just, it's literally the director just making things up. You know, how do we kill this guy? You know, this guy goes to a massage parlor. Well, so the director goes, well, how do you die in a massage parlor? And so they just kind of string together this ridiculous chain of events. It doesn't matter how it happens. It just, things fall on things, and things fall out of other things, and eventually something heavy falls on the guy's head. The only real suspense from Final Destination, even this one, comes in, they set up a way you think somebody is going to die, but they don't die that way. So what happens is, like, let's say there's a knife balancing on the edge of a counter, and they keep setting up the knife, or they'll keep setting up a gun on top of a stove, or something like that. So as everything's going on, tension is building, the music is climaxing, things are getting really stressful, the strings are and things are really simmering, people are about to die, there's a gun glowing red hot, it's about to go off, the knife is shaking on the table, and then the knife falls off the table, the guy falls down, and the knife sticks in the floor right next to him, and you're like, oh shit, that didn't happen. Then the gun goes off, knocks some heavy pans off the shelf, and the heavy pans fall off and crush the guy's head. And you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That was really funny. So it's that kind of, that's why I say it's a comedy. It's because you're watching these guys die, but you're watching them die in really goofy manners. And where I find it frustrating is there's no struggle here. There's no way to win. You know, it's so frustrating when it's just a snuff film at some point. It's just a gore reel. And in fact, at the end of the movie, there is literally just a gore highlight reel where they show like every single kill from every single Final Destination movie to the strains of AC/DC's If You Want Blood, You Got It. I'm not even kidding. This thing goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes where they show every single fucking kill in these movies. So if you ever had a doubt this was anything but a comedy, that highlight reel should just hammer it home for you. I was talking about, and the one question I always wanted answered that they never even approach in this movie is, who's giving these guys the premonitions? How are they getting these visions? They just have them. So what I get out of this is, let's just assume this is a world where death is you playing The Sims. Death is this really, really sadistic motherfucker who just makes shit up to make people die in really hilarious ways. Let's just roll with that. Let's just roll with the idea that nobody ever puts the pieces together except the Candyman, who's seen this shit happen all these times before and knows exactly what's going on. Really, after 4 movies anyway, do you really think nobody would put this together where like there's some huge disaster, 6 to 8 people survive, and then they all die in really, really memorable and hard to clean up ways? It's unbelievable how nobody put these together. Like, people are getting sliced in half from some piece of scrap metal that flies off a NASCAR, and they get cut in half, or just, my God, nobody would forget these. These things would be like all over the news, where like, the show 1,000 Ways to Die would be all over this shit. And eventually someone would ask the question, you don't have to be a great reporter to put this together and be like, wait a minute, all these survivors who were just insanely lucky died in insanely unlucky ways like 5 days afterwards. Should we put the pieces together on this one? So nobody asked the questions. And so there's actually a really good movie I liked called, it's by Takashi Miike, called One Missed Call. Not the Jessica Alba, I don't think it was Jessica Alba, but there's an American remake. Don't watch that one. Watch the Japanese version of One Missed Call, which I really, really liked, because at some point, the media puts this together. Let's just roll with the premise that in One Missed Call, this phone, there's some kind of possessed phone. There's like a ghost that inhabits phones that kills you. It's a little more complicated than that, but it starts to become this piece of folklore where you get this really mysterious call that tells you how you're going to die, and then you die that way. So nobody really takes it seriously. It's kind of like the Bloody Mary myth, you say Bloody Mary in the mirror, and so they're like, oh, if you get the call, you're going to die, and they're like, oh, please, nobody gets that call. But people actually do start dying from the phone. And so what happens in that movie is the media approaches these girls and goes, you got the call, right? You got the call from the haunted phone? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, we'll keep you safe. We'll keep you in a safe house where nothing can possibly hurt you. We'll have you on camera all the time. All we want to do is watch you, so when the appointed time comes, whether or not you're really going to die. And I was blown away by the ingenuity of that scene, where people actually do put together the ridiculousness of these deaths, and then actually start asking questions about it and trying to prevent it. So, like, it actually becomes a thing where, like, the national media, like, obsesses over this. It's kind of like Paranormal Activity, where, like, if in Paranormal Activity this shit was actually happening, and they released a movie based on this, this would be like a worldwide phenomenon. This basically proves the existence of supernatural life or supernatural shit going on. People would actually start to obsess over this and go to this house and shit. So that's why I love One Missed Call. Final Destination never even fucking approaches that. Where they ask the guy asked the question. He goes, if death's coming for us, maybe there's something out there that wanted me to live because I got the vision. I had this premonition that saved me, so maybe there's something out there fighting for us. He doesn't. Actually, when he says that, he's like, maybe I'm supposed to live if I got the premonition. So, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. Who's giving this guy the premonition? Is there some force of good out there that's trying to override Death's plan? If so, what is it? Is it like God? Is God trying to save these people? Or is it Death giving this guy premonitions just to fuck with them? Because at this point, it's really hard to argue with the fact that Death is intentionally trying to fuck with people just before they die. It's almost like God in this universe is the kid who's burning after the magnifying glass, You know, it's really fucking sadistic. This is not the kind of world you would want to be in. This is a world where God actively hates you and is the kind of God that pulls the wings